So, all right. I want to welcome everybody to this call meeting of the Board of Education on July 13th, 2020. And so we will start our meeting by doing a quorum determination. So once I call your name, if you'll let us know whether you're here or not. Miss Allred?
Here.
Mr. Rivers?
Here.
Dr. McKnight? Okay. Mr. Peace?
Here.
Mr. Udy?
Present.
Dr. Houlihan?
Present.
Dr. McLean?
Present.
Dr. Myrick?
Present.
Miss Day?
Present.
Dr. Winborn? I think he may be muted. I've seen him. And Attorney Dubison?
Yes, I'm present. And board members, you'll see that there's a new face, Erin Barker, in the meeting. She is my summer intern. She's a law student at Campbell. And so in consultation with the chair and the superintendent, I've brought her with me virtually to the meeting today. And thank you.
All right. We're glad to have you, Miss Barker. Thank you for joining us. I see that Dr. McKnight just joined as well.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. All right, Madam Superintendent, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Yes, sir. We need to actually approve the agenda.
Okay. All right. We would take a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Danny Udy will make that motion to approve the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. And do we have any further discussion? All right, and we will now vote on the agenda by roll call. Miss Allred?
Yes.
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Dr. McKnight?
Yes.
Mr. Peace?
Yes.
Mr. Udy?
Yes.
Dr. Houlihan?
Present. Yes.
All right. So our agenda is approved as it stands. And so now we will ask Mr. Peace if he'll offer our invocation.
Father, I thank you for this day. And as we gather to deliberate the issues before us, I pray that that's in the best interest of our children, staff, teachers, and the community. Guide us, keep us safe as we do those things assigned to us today. This I ask, amen.
Thank you, Mr. Peace. Mr. Udy, if you'll lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you so much. We will now entertain a motion to go into closed session in accordance with General Statute 143, 318, 11, A6, A3, A5, and Section 115C, 321 for personnel and attorney-client privilege. Do I have a board member that would make that motion?
Danny Udy will make that motion.
All right, got a second. Thank you so much.
Second.
We will now entertain a motion to go. So we have a motion by Mr. Udy and a second by Dr. Houlihan to go into closed session for just a little bit. We'll do a roll call. Is there any further discussion on that? Section 115C 321. We'll go do a roll call vote. Miss Allred?
Yes.
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Dr. McKnight?
Yes.
Mr. Peace?
Yes.
Mr. Udy?
Yes.
Dr. Houlihan?
Yes.
All right, so that is a vote to go into closed session. So we'll give the tech team just a few moments. Those
since our last meeting. I encourage everyone to keep in mind that we are all eagerly awaiting the governor's announcement about our state's schools reopening, which will drive our district's decisions as well. So for now, we continue to ask for patience and for parents to think about the best learning options for his or her students in the event Plan B is selected. I also hope everyone received our weekend's announcements. But before leaving this afternoon, I must take time to celebrate our successful Book Bus Program initiative, which has serviced several pupils this summer. I would like to thank the many volunteers who have helped make literacy come alive and stay alive for our students and families this summer. And I cannot leave without extending a heartfelt thank you to our child nutrition and transportation departments for continuing the amazing health service to our entire Granville County community. Together, we somehow always get it done in Granville County and in Granville County Public Schools. And I am confident more than ever with re-entry, we will do it again with the help of everyone pulling together. So stay tuned. We promise to keep everyone informed. Mr. Chair, this concludes my announcements.
Thank you, Dr. McLean. Are there any questions for Dr. McLean? All right. Seeing none, we will move on next. I have some remarks I need to make to you. So good afternoon, board members. I wanted to take a few moments to quickly update you on a few items. At our last meeting, you asked that I have a conversation with Mr. Rivers related to his recent resignation and any feelings towards rescinding his resignation. This past Thursday, he and I spoke at length by phone related to this. After our conversation, he has relayed to me that he wishes for his resignation to stand as he is submitted to us effective September 30th, 2020. Accordingly, the process outlined and approved by you at our July 2nd meeting will continue on the path that we are on to seat a future board member to represent District 3 after Mr. Rivers' resignation is effective September 30th. Additionally, it was requested that the board hear an update on the issue of changing board term limits at our June 29th meeting. We obviously did not have that conversation. I believe that that was my oversight of having that scheduled during the meeting. To correct that and give us good information, I have asked the attorney to plan to update us on where we have been, where we currently are, and what are the possible next steps the board may take to this issue. We will do that at the August Board of Education meeting at the beginning of the month. I would also like to remind you that I realize you are getting quite a bit of questions related to the re-entry process. After each meeting and as the press reports, we see a surge in our citizens seeking information. Please make sure that you are reaching out to Dr. McLean if you feel you have questions you are unsure how to answer. I want to make sure that we as a board are not a source of misinformation. I want to thank you again for your diligence and flexibility during this time and want to remind you that in all that we are doing, we should be keeping the children of Granville County at the forefront. So I want to appreciate the opportunity to report back to you on that. All right, so now we will move to our consent items. You've had a moment to, or you've had a chance to look at board docs. Our consent items for today, you have two sets of minutes to approve, June 1st and June 15th. Those are electronic meetings, and so you've got those minutes there. And when it is the pleasure of the board, I'll take a motion related to these consent items.
I make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. So we have a motion by Dr. Houlihan, a second by Mr. Peace, to approve the consent items as presented. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll vote. Ms. Allred?
Yes.
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Dr. McKnight,
Yes.
Mr. Peace,
Yes.
Mr. Udy,
Yes.
Dr. Holohan.
Yes.
All right, our consent items are approved 7-0. I appreciate that. All right, Dr. McLean, I believe we're ready to start our policy discussion and get a re-entry update from you and the district staff.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, board members. I know it seems like re-entry is all we've talked about, but it is certainly the most popular topic in our state in public education right now. So please allow us a few minutes to share with you. I will ask Ms. Lauren Curtis, who's been our district lead on this, to join me at this time. Ms. Curtis, will you put the presentation up for this afternoon? I would like to remind everyone that we should be receiving district updates around 3 choices. Parents have 3 choices, 2 choices at each base school, face-to-face or virtual online at each school. And then, of course, the third option our board has decided parents will have is the option for a blended learning model at Granville Academy. And we'd like for parents to be thinking about this. However, all of us are waiting to hear from our governor. As soon as we hear from the governor, we will then be able to make more informed decisions for what will occur here in Granville Community Public Schools with our board, and we'll be getting in touch with you. So at this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Lauren Curtis for more detailed information and our executive team. Ms. Curtis.
Thank you, Dr. McLean. Thank you, board members. As Dr. McLean just reminded us, we're going to have 3 options available for families. Apologize. I'm doing a little work done at the house today if you hear a little background noise. We are going to have 3 options available to families, face-to-face at the base school with minimal to moderate social distancing. They may choose to do the virtual option at the base school where they do all of their work at home while still receiving instruction from the teachers at that base school. And then the last is Granville Academy. So we're going to be asking in the next week all Granville County Public Schools families to indicate which one of those they think is best for their child's learning for the 2020-21 school year. Just a reminder and a clarification, everyone is still enrolled. No one needs to re-enroll, but we do need to know how you want to start school August 17th. So we'll ask folks in the next week a couple of questions. 1, what is the learning option you're choosing for each child in your family? 2, identify any siblings so we can make sure that they're on the same plan or same schedule if we're in an alternating days environment in Plan B. Update contact information. That's been a big barrier for us recently in terms of getting in touch with families and families getting in touch with us. So we want to get as up-to-date contact information as we can from everybody. Request bus transportation and register for after school if needed. So those are we're looking to find out from families so we can prepare for the beginning of school on August 17th. We have a couple of updates on the arts. I know this has been a hot topic over the last few weeks and people want to know what's going on. So first we'll talk about visual arts. Our visual arts classes are going to follow the same cleaning and safety protocols as our regular classes. So this will include having individual supplies for students when possible or disinfecting supplies between students when they must be shared. The guidance that we got from DHHS and DPI kind of covered everything that we needed to take into consideration for these classes. Now, the real question that lots of folks have been asking is about band, chorus, and general music. So we're reviewing some recommendations from some state and national organizations about music education, and we're creating some guidelines for plans A and B for elementary music, secondary chorus, and secondary band. The areas that we're looking at are going to include social distancing, how to disinfect, how to set up classrooms in a different way. If you think about your band classroom or your chorus classroom growing up, you may have been used to that arc setup. And so kids would be facing each other. Instead, we'll be looking at rearranging folks into straight lines to make sure that we're not sending those particles across the room. And then, of course, it's suggested instructional adjustments that still fit within our curriculum. As always, our priority is going to be safety first for everyone in those classrooms. So we're continuing to review those recommendations from the National Federation, but we are starting to create our plan at this time. An update on masks. So our current guidance from DHHS and DPI is what the governor told us a couple of weeks ago. So they are required for staff and students ages 11 and up. We will also be requiring them for any visitors that come to our building, and continue to strongly recommend them for those students under the age of 11. We will make exceptions for those who cannot tolerate wearing a cloth-based covering for the following reasons. It could be a developmental, medical, or behavioral health need. We're going to continue to work with public health officials and take into account the input that we got from families and students in summer to determine what's going to be best when we get back to school on August 17th. And then, of course, there may be some additional recommendations forthcoming from us as a district or from the governor later this week. So we'll be coming back to you and discussing this a little bit more if needed. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Myrick, and he's going to talk about the remote instruction plan.
Thank you, Ms. Curtis. Board members, if you recall, we've talked about our remote instruction plan over the last couple of months, and I've mentioned several times that it is a plan that has 15 components. And the information that I will be sharing today is just a snippet of all the information that we'll be sharing with our teachers as well as with our families in the coming weeks. The plan is due to the Department of Public Instruction on Monday, June 20th, and our plan will support both plans A, B, and C. And you can see in the bullets there, district-wide remote learning plan C, blended learning on alternating schedules with plan B, virtual learning options at base school, GCPS option number 2, single student quarantine if we have students who are out because of illness, small group quarantine, required remote instruction days built into the calendar, and of course we're thinking ahead to those inclement weather days that we will more than likely have this year. We are continuing to work with our elected officials because, as you know, throughout the county, in many areas in our county, there's no internet connectivity for our parents to access. So that is something that, as a school district, you know, we don't have a lot of leverage in that in providing high-speed internet. However, we will do what we can as a school district to ensure that we are providing equitable access for all of our students. So our remote instruction plan will also include a paper pencil option in that. Next slide, please. The remote instruction plan, again, has 15 components, but for the sake of our plan and to kind of make it manageable for all of us, we have put the plan in 3 broad categories: communication, systems and operations, effective lesson design, and delivery are the 3 options, are the 3 areas that we have grouped our plan. Unlike our emergency plan that we used back in the fall, back in the spring, the requirement for the fall is that grades and attendance will be taken. That is something that is part of the remote instruction plan that we have to submit to DPI, how we would do that. So I just want to let everyone know that we will be assigning grades in Power School, and those grades will be available through Parent Portal just like normal. We will be assigning grades on both digital and non-digital content. In addition to that, attendance will be taken. And here you can see that students will be considered present if there is 2-way communication with teacher or designated staff member. So we're going to really do a very good job of ensuring that we are having connections with our students. Sometimes it may not be a day-to-day assignment that we're connecting with students, but we are addressing our students' social and emotional needs. So there will be daily contact, if nothing more, to make a social contact with the students to ensure that our students and families are doing okay. So we will continue that, and we will make an effort to make sure that if we're not able to connect with the student virtually, that we will be placing telephone calls to those families and text messages to those families through some applications that we might have. Next slide, please. So the remote instruction plan, just thinking about the fact that there are some portions of our county who don't have access to high-speed internet or internet at all, we are offering our plan in digital and non-digital format. And when we're thinking about remote instruction, there are really two types of instruction that comes along with it. One is synchronous instruction and the other is asynchronous. Synchronous simply means that it's real time. The teacher is there and the students can see the teacher face to face and the instruction is live. What's happening right at that moment is what the student is seeing. Students will be given a time to log in and participate. The other asynchronous instruction is self-paced, but it's teacher guided. Teachers may provide a recorded lesson, they may provide a paper pencil packet, they may post assignments, they may do some follow-up phone calls and such. But those students do not have to be directly in front of the computer when the teacher is there for asynchronous instruction. And so we are very happy to be able to offer both formats. Next slide, please. For our remote instruction plan, we're looking at average times because we did hear from the spring that there were, in some cases, students who were only working for maybe 1 hour a day, as it seemed. However, we have provided some average times that will help the families out just a little bit in thinking about the planning and how things will go with the day for their students. Now keep in mind, these are average times because some of our students may take a little longer to complete assignments. Some of our students may take a little less time to complete assignments. And as we move throughout the year, the amount of time that we have in a class may increase just because of the abilities of our students, or we may have to drop back sometimes. So the one good thing about remote instruction is that it's flexible and it can be very individualized, and it's going to provide an equitable playing field for our students. And so each day in K through 8, we will be looking at reading instruction with assignments, math, science, social studies, instruction with assignments. Independent reading, specials, and electives will be for all of our students, K-12. But for high school, per course, the reason that's per high school course because if you would think some of our juniors and seniors may only have 1 or 2 high school classes on their campus, but they may have classes through Granville Online, they may have classes through North Carolina Virtual, they may have classes at Advanced Granville Community College. So they are only actually taking 1 or 2 classes on the physical campus. So the high school times may vary greatly. They may work more than 4 hours a day on their time. But I do also want to point out that there will be instructional support for our EC students, our ESL students, and our AIG students. And also here you can just see the kind of average times by grade level. I do want to point out one thing on board docs, excuse me, in K2, on board docs it says K1 and then it says grades 2 through 5. Well, as Dr. McLean mentioned earlier, we are constantly changing and just trying to make sure that we're keeping up to date and having the best information out there. So you will notice that it's now grades 3 through 5 and they will have an average of 3 hours per day rather than the 180 minutes that you saw on the original document. Next slide, please. Thank you. Are there any questions about the remote instruction piece?
I had one question.
Yes, sir.
Just out of curiosity, the average times seem light compared to what a normal in-person school day would be like. Does that average times also include homework and the like? Is that the total commitment, say a 12th grader or 11th grader is making per day is 4 hours?
Well, one thing we have to remember, and I should have mentioned this initially, with remote instruction, it's not necessarily time for time when you're looking at how students learn, because in a remote learning environment, because the lessons can be individualized for the students, that may allow the students to work at a faster pace or at a slower pace. So if a student is working at a more advanced pace, then they may have additional assignments that the teacher would do, or the teacher may be able to extend the learning using some other activities and so forth. Whereas if the student is working a little slower, the teacher can go back and kind of delve back in and then retool and give the students another opportunity, more opportunity. So it's not really time for time. So it's very difficult to say that, for example, in high school that we're going to spend 90 minutes in each one of the 4 classes, because the face-to-face time is different. Because in a classroom, a teacher may teach, have direct instruction for 15 or 20 minutes. They may have a bell ringer for 5 or 10 minutes. They may have a ticket out the door for another 5 minutes, and then there may be time for group work in between during that that hour and a half time that students are in the classroom. However, with remote instruction and with learning online, those things do exist, but they don't necessarily have to exist all at the same time. For example, a teacher may assign an assignment on Monday that's actually not due until the following Sunday night at midnight. That's the way the advanced Granville classes are set up. North Carolina virtual classes are set up in that way as well. So you will very rarely see time for time when it comes to remote instruction.
I guess what's bothering me is if we're trying to, I mean, if we have to do option C and we have to do all remote learning for the fall semester, when I look at, for instance, my 2 sons at Webb, they had basically 6.5 hours of instruction a day, and then they had probably 2 to 3 hours of homework each night. So, that's, we're looking at 8-9 hours of time spent per child, on academics. Where did we come up with the 4 hours per day? I mean, that, again, and I have experience with online classes as well. Both boys took a lot of online classes, and they seem to have, more. I don't know. It just seems like for the total 4 hours for 4 sections just doesn't seem enough. Let's say for our high school students. Is there some study that we did that or some document nationally that recommends this amount of time?
We are looking at mastery of the standards that students are given, and we have used best practices of times and for online learning that we've looked at.
Right. The biggest criticism I've received from parents and again, we were thrust into our emergency situation in mid-March where we had to go remote overnight, and I think we did a remarkable job, all things considered. But the biggest has been universal from the parents who've spoken to me is they did not feel their students got enough time with the teacher. That was the biggest criticism. And the data that we saw, I guess in May or June, all the survey data also pointed to not enough instructional time. So I'm just, it just concerns me. I mean, I think it remains to be seen how well it works, but that, I don't know. That 4 hours per day is 4 hours with let's say the computer with the teacher, or is that an hour or 2 with the teacher and then doing work on their own asynchronously?
It varies, Mr. Rivers, because again, these are average times, and it's based on the student who may take the least amount of time to the student who takes the most amount of time. And it's very difficult to pinpoint exactly how long a student would take to, 1, master a standard, and 2, complete assignments that the teacher has given.
Rob, let me jump in if I could.
Sure.
To take this a little bit further, more concrete, let's say, well, we know that we have had a serious issue with reading. And so we give them the test in the 3rd grade or whatever. With the remote instruction, and as you said, it varies, what will be done with the child who is in the 2nd grade or maybe the 3rd grade, who is not doing well versus a child who has already mastered reading expectations for the 3rd grade? Can you give us just a clear example of how that would work?
Yes, sir. That's a very good question. And in fact, Michelle Robertson and I had that conversation last week, and she's online with us now. And if I may, Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask her to come in and kind of address that question.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a great question, and one that we are just came off of another meeting just about, actually. Within a remote learning environment, there's lots more opportunity for some personalized learning, where the teacher can schedule a separate session with a student who's struggling with a particular concept or skill. So there is that opportunity just from the core instruction point of view. We also will have some Jumpstart tutoring, which is part of the Jumpstart plan. So looking at our level 1s and level 2 students, at least in grades 3 and 4, we will be able to provide that supplemental tutoring outside of school hours.
When you say outside of school hours, exactly what do you mean?
That's a really great question too, because of course in a remote environment, everything is, right? The hours are different, right? What I can tell you is that the Jumpstart guidelines say that funding cannot be used within a normal school day. So I'm understanding that to be after what a normal dismissal time would be. Then that tutoring can come in and provide supplemental support.
So, and I promise.
That's okay.
So what would be defined as a normal school day if students are taking 4 hours here or whatever the numbers are, much less than what we're used to? What would be the definition of a normal school day?
Well, a normal school day, it would still be a regular school day in terms of the hours of time for the teaching purposes and for the students. One of the things that we have removed in a remote environment are things such as recess, lunch, transition between classes, and those pieces are not included in this amount of time that we're using. So the remote instruction day itself seems to be shorter because we don't have all of those other variables. However, the remote instructional day can be longer depending on who the student is, or it can be shorter depending on who the student is. It's one of those things we have to really think about it, not like it would be in a regular classroom setting, but think about it as an opportunity for students to work individually and to work on mastering the standards. So what may work in a classroom, in an individual classroom, may not work in an online setting. So it's very important when teachers are designing their lessons and they're thinking about remote instruction, they have to think about it from the standpoint of, I may not be right there in front of that student for the entire time that they're going to be with me. However, I need to make sure that when I'm instructing them and the assignments that I'm giving them are assignments that are going to lead them towards mastery of the standards. This is also a great opportunity for our for our teachers as well, to use the flipped classroom model, where students will work on things outside of the classroom in a remote environment and then be able to come back into the regular classroom environment and work on it. Or it can be extended. Just think about the students that we have that are taking classes at the community college, or students who are taking classes through North Carolina virtual public schools. They may have the teacher right there in front of them for about 20 minutes or 30 minutes, but they may have assignments that would last them over a course of 2 or 3 days. So it's really different, and we have to think about it not in terms of, I'm in the building, I'm sitting in front of the teacher from 8:30 in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon. So it's a really difficult thing to do, and I know that our parents are out there trying to grapple with that as well, but we just have to think about it as it's just individual pieces, because we all may not eat dinner at the same time, but we all going to eat dinner. And anyone else want to kind of jump in?
Let me ask you one last question, I promise. So I assume that our teachers have had special professional development to do the kinds of things that you're talking about.
That is part of our remote instruction plan. We have to have a professional development plan to go along with that. So yes, our teachers are receiving professional development on that. There are courses being offered through the Friday Institute that we have pushed out to all of our teachers to take advantage of. And then there were also some other professional development opportunities that were found as best practices that we have allowed our teachers to participate in. So they are
That we're offering, or something that they have opened somewhere else?
Those two are open, and then as a district, we are also offering some professional development through Granville Online. We have had professional development that has been ongoing for several years for teachers who want to teach in Granville Online. So that we already have a professional development platform developed for those teachers, and that our teachers can just tap right into and then learn those best practices about how to instruct in a remote environment.
Okay, so let's take a group of third graders at West Oxford. How will you know if they're well prepared to carry out what you talked about?
They being the teachers?
Yes.
Do you want me to speak to that, Dr. Myrick, or do you want to?
Yeah.
So I think, Dr. Myrick, as Dr. Myrick said, we have been providing sources of professional learning around remote teaching and learning through resources that DPI has pushed out, as well as from the Friday Institute. We will then provide guidance for remote lesson design and guidance for giving feedback on remote instruction to support that work. So when that third grade teacher at West Oxford is designing remote instruction and then delivering remote instruction, we've provided them the guidance around that, or will have by then provided them the guidance around that, and then we'll give the principal a tool for giving feedback on that.
I have another question.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to speak as a parent now. Tom has in the past cautioned me about not mentioning my sons, but I have no choice now because I'm very concerned about this. And I'm speaking totally as a parent who has had quite a bit of experience with online instruction, both at UNC Chapel Hill, but mostly at Northern Granville and at Webb. My sons took online classes through Granville Online. They took them through North Carolina BPS and through North Carolina School of Science and Math. In those online classes, they typically, in fact, in every case, they would meet once a week with the instructor for about 2 hours, maybe on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night or whenever. It's usually a 2-hour session online. That's the only time they'd meet with the teacher. And then they would have many, many hours of assignments they would do. Typically, at North Carolina School of Science and Math, they kind of rated their courses on difficulty, but their average courses required 2 hours a day per class to do the assignments. What we're seeing here, and you're reading that this 4 hours includes the instruction and the assignments, that's 1 hour per day per class. And as a parent, I'm telling you, that's not enough. So I don't, as a parent looking at this, and not as a board member, as a parent looking at this, I am not, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that, and I know what you're saying, that there may be some efficiencies, but the bottom line is, you can't learn Calc A, B, or BC 1 hour a day. You can't do it. I tell you, honestly, you can't do it. You can't learn chemistry 1 hour a day. So, somehow, this does not, it doesn't flush with me. So I don't understand how we're going to be able to reach our performance goals on some of these tougher high school classes on only averaging 1 hour per day. It just doesn't add up.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna jump in here just for a second because I'm hearing what Mr. Rivers is saying, and I totally understand that. I think I get to speak from a perspective as a parent who just went through this with the seventh grader at Hawley. And from what I found, I think that 4 hours average, some days it was right at that, some days it's a little bit more. Because the schedule that she had, and I think the teacher did a great job of jumping in here at the last minute and pulling this together. But when I'm reflecting on my daughter's experience, I know she met with math and reading about 4 times a week. They had time where she met with the teacher. They got instruction. It was good in that the lessons were recorded, so when she had to go back and do independent work, she could always go back and review the lesson and try to get a little bit of help on that. Having those set days and times for the subjects. There was the time for the direct instruction, and then there was a lot of time that she spent doing the independent learning because she had to work on something or stand it until she reached mastery. Kind of what Dr. Meyer was saying a little earlier. Some days that took a little bit longer, some days not. Just depends on, how dialed in she was on that one. And there was also hours that the teacher set up that the kids could request for individual conferences or check-ins, which I kind of like that because they got that one-on-one time where they could kind of Zoom with the teacher and say, I'm struggling with this particular thing, and they can walk them through that. Or just kind of check in and see, what are you struggling with or what are you having problems with? I kind of like the way her teachers had their schedule set up, and on Friday was the day they kind of did conferencing. It was the day to kind of catch up and finish your assignments and get them in. So I'm not too overly concerned yet because I feel that once teachers get that professional development in place and we have a little bit more structure around this, I really think a lot of parents are going to find out this is not as bad as we thought it was back in March. I can't take the experience from March and say this is not going to work because everybody was like last minute hustling trying to pull this together and make it work. So I'm really interested in seeing what we're going to come up with now that we've had time to get teachers professional development on the design and delivery of remote instruction.
And I appreciate Dr. McKnight, but I guess what is concerning me is the courses, the very rigorous, difficult high school courses, for example. And of course, I'm worried about the third graders, in the reading in elementary school that Dr. Houlihan mentioned. But I can just tell you, I do not see how it is physically possible to learn chemistry or AP Environmental Science or AP U.S. History, spending just 1 hour a day. It's going to take instruction, and it's going to take a lot of discipline on the students' part to do the assignments. The 4 hours, from the way I'm reading that chart, includes everything, homework and instruction. And I just do not think it is physically possible to learn chemistry or Calc AB, BC, or biology or AP Bio with 1 hour a day total. I think as a parent, we would want to see, not necessarily more instructional time, but we'd want to see that the expectation was the child would spend more time a day studying. A typical face-to-face high school was the 6.5 hours of instruction and then 2 hours of homework at night. So that's 8 hours roughly. So we're getting half of that. So I'm just giving you a parent's perspective, having done the online classes in high school with my kids. I don't know what the answer is, and I guess we'll have to see if this works, but I'm just telling you right now, I don't see how you can learn some of those harder classes doing 1 hour a day.
Rob, this is Tom Houlihan.
Hey, Tom.
I have to agree with you. As a former high school teacher and principal, I don't know if there's anything else that can be done, and maybe there's not, but the amount of time in high school, like you mentioned, AP courses, I don't know how a kid could possibly do well on the test, but given that, it's your responsibility school system's responsibility to carry it out. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I'm with you. I just don't think it's enough time.
So I guess then from what Tom and I are saying then is that our input is your call, but our input, I think, or at least I'll speak for myself, is that we have a limit on how much online time the teacher can actually provide. But there should be, on all the online courses my kids took, there were assignments outside the class. I mean, they sat with the teacher for the 2 hours a week, and they spent many, many more hours doing the work. And I guess that's what I'm not seeing on that slide. What I would have liked to have seen was so many hours of online instruction, and then so many hours of self-instruction, i.e. homework. We don't want to kill our kids with homework by any means, but there needs to be, the teachers need to provide assignments that are realistic that would help with mastery of some of these more difficult subjects.
So can I ask oh, go ahead.
No, go right ahead, sir.
So I get the student side of it. My question, and I'd sent this to Dr. Myrick earlier today, and maybe we're not ready to answer yet, but my question is, our teachers, am I understanding that Miss Jones is going to teach her class face-to-face, but also supporting students that are doing remote learning at the same time that would be in her next group? Is that how that's working, or am I misunderstanding that? Or is there a remote teacher and an in-person teacher?
Those are details, Mr. Richardson, that we are still working on.
Okay.
Both of those scenarios you just presented are likely, but we haven't reached a point yet on which one would be the best method to take.
I got you. Yeah. Okay. Are there other questions, board members? And Dr. McLean, I'm sorry, you were about to say something. I think I interrupted you.
Oh, that's all right. I was going to say, what our board is doing right now is exactly the purpose of the remote learning presentation this morning. So I wanted to thank everyone for the input they were providing, because I believe, Dr. Myrick, there is going to be a remote learning meeting again later this week. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. It will be most likely Thursday morning. I've heard from 2 of the committee members. I just need to hear back from 1 of the committee members.
And although you may not be on the committee, we welcome everyone's input and feedback, because remote learning, although we may start with re-entry one way, one never knows. I've told everyone, we can't get married to any one plan, because if I've learned nothing else, we could all end up in a very different place. And remote learning seems to have a place in all of the plans. So what everyone has shared this morning, I want you to know the academic team is on the call, and they're all listening because they need to take into consideration the thoughts that have been shared. Another thing the team is considering is possibly the 2x2 model. I say that to say everything is on the table. So this is the time for everyone to offer suggestions and advice, and much of what we've heard this morning is right on target. So I just wanted to say that, Mr. Chair, there is nothing off the table. So everything that I've heard is certainly, this is the time. And I want to thank everyone for it.
Board members, what other questions do you have for Dr. Myrick and the academic team piece? Okay. All right. We want to keep going?
Absolutely. There is only one more slide this morning, and it is information we've already sent the board. It's concerning Granville Academy. Granville Academy is slated to begin on August 5th. We've received information because those youngsters are on the campus of Granville Community College. We wanted to bring to the board that they will begin in a remote instruction capacity for the fall semester in the vast majority of their courses. So we wanted to bring to the board for some action. We have to let those parents know what we are thinking there. And I just wanted to get our board to begin thinking about, or to think about at this time, how we would like for Granville Early College to re-enter on August 5th.
Okay. All right, board members, you saw some information related to this. Let's ask some questions regarding this if you'd like to.
I guess I'm a little confused. It's probably my own fault. And correct me, Dr. McLean, if I'm wrong. My understanding is we are still waiting for Vance Granville Community College to definitively say what they're going to do. But if they,
Not at this point. We are clear, and Dr. Winborn, I may get you to assist me with this. We finally heard back, and we are clear on this. Dr. Winborn, could you assist me with this, please?
Yes,
And Mr.
ma'am.
River-
It has been confirmed. We did receive written confirmation from the senior staff at Vance Granville that they will be indeed having all of their instruction via remote, with the exception of some lab instruction that would be done periodically, maybe bi-weekly or something of that nature. So, yes, that is accurate. Confirmed.
okay, well, thank you. That's good. So that means that, that it is more complicated for us. From an email we exchanged, Dr. McLean, my understanding is that there is some issue as far as if the governor approves face-to-face or Plan B or Plan A regarding Granville Early College, there was some issue that of where, if we want to try to get those students back in the classroom for face-to-face instruction for the classes that Granville County Schools teaches them, you indicated to me, if I understood you correctly, that there is a challenge in that at times those students would have been on the Vance Granville Community College campus in their classrooms. And so if I understood you correctly, you might want to explain it more for the rest of the board and for me, there's not enough room at our campus at Granville Early College to house all of the students for all of the periods. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. For the large majority of our juniors and seniors day, they are on the campus of Vance Granville Community College. Our 9th and 10th graders, primarily our 9th graders, are with us a nice portion of the day, but even they visit our campus at Vance Granville Community College. But our other students, for a great majority of their day, are on the community college campus.
So if Plan B is in effect, then obviously, even with the Plan B, A-B system, we could run into a problem of physical space at Granville Early College. Is that what you're saying?
And one of the exciting pieces about this year, board, we were thrilled about sharing with you, was that we did a great thing. We expanded Granville Early College by 25 students this year, and we were thrilled to bring that news to you, and we were going to celebrate that moment, because that was something I wanted to do, you wanted, I'm certain, and our district wanted. We wanted to expand Granville Early College. Well.
Be careful what you wish for.
Oh my goodness. And so classroom space is now even more of an issue, particularly if we go with a Plan B. Yes, sir. So, my goodness. So we have an even larger issue at this point. We have accepted those students. They are committed, and they're ready to rock and roll in 2 weeks. So I needed to share that with everyone. Right? It was going to be a celebratory moment.
And now it's a challenge.
So,
well, thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Board members, what other questions or comments do you have related to Granville Early College? So, Dr. McLean, are you looking for action or affirmation from us, or?
We do need some action, just like we will for the 17th. The consistency would be most appropriate. Am I correct, Attorney Dubison? Would that not be most helpful for us for both entry dates? I'm not sure Attorney Dubison's still here. Okay, yes, sir.
I'm here.
That's okay.
Having a little technical difficulty. Yes, so my understanding is that the staff is seeking approval in order to be able to inform families and move ahead with planning. certainly on the understanding that if they are required to make some change to their plan based on an executive order, certainly they would do that. And I suppose you could make it the most clear by having a motion to approve a certain plan, with the understanding that the administration will continue to comply with requirements from the state, including any orders of the governor.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, board members, you've heard the recommendation of the superintendent and some guidance from the attorney. Do you have further questions, or are you ready to make a motion? What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, if there's no other discussion.
Okay, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yes, sir. I would move that the board grant Dr. McLean the authority to operate Granville Early College entry as best suited for our students in compliance with state and our local guidelines, giving her the flexibility to make some real-time decisions should things are changing almost on a daily basis. Giving her the flexibility to choose what's best for our students at Granville Early College.
Okay, do we have someone that would like to second that motion?
Danny Udy, second.
Okay. All right, so Mr. Rivers has made a motion stating that he'd like to grant Dr. McLean the authority to operate Granville Early College High School opening process that best suits the students within the state guidelines as directed by the governor. That's a motion by Mr. Rivers and a second by Mr. Udy. Is there further discussion? All right, hearing none, if you're ready to vote. Ms. Alward?
Yes.
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Dr. McKnight?
Yes.
Mr. Peace?
Yes.
Mr. Udy?
Yes.
And Dr. Houlihan?
Yes.
All right, so that motion passes 7-0, Dr. McLean.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, board. All right, do we need to do the same for the rest, or are we kind of in a holding pattern?
No, sir, we're in a holding pattern there. We want the reentry committee to continue their work. Just needed to provide you an update on those items.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. All right, board members, we're going to move on to our finance piece today. If you remember, we had held over this topic from our June 29th meeting. And so we're going to ask Ms. Day, Assistant Superintendent of Finance, to give us our 2021 budget update. She has met with the Finance Committee this past week, and she has some information for us. So, Ms. Day?
Thank you, Mr. Richardson, and good afternoon, board members. I'm going to try to pull up the presentation. Okay, are you seeing my screen? Okay, thank you. So, as Mr. Richardson said, the Finance Committee has met based on some questions that we've received that we discussed at the last meeting and the Finance Committee meeting. I have put together this presentation. It's a review of what we looked at before with a little bit of additional information based on those questions in the Finance Committee meeting. The main things to discuss are the recommendations from the Finance Committee meeting that we had last week. Looking again at those options that we looked at the June 29th meeting, as well as looking at a recommendation from the executive team as far as fund balance appropriated for 2021 is, and then also looking at, okay, so what does fund balance look like, and what are some options for reducing the reliance on fund balance if we go with one of these plans and use this amount of the various amounts of fund balance. So, the first thing I wanted to discuss, and please, Mr. Richardson and Ms. Allred, please jump in here if, and correct me or add anything as I'm going along, but, when the Finance Committee met, last week, one of the things that was discussed was the option two. You might remember that the option two was, to provide employees, all full-time employees with a $250 one-time supplement. And what was recommended by the Finance Committee last week was, and what was discussed, was the fact that the state has now come with as part of the like mini budget bill related to salaries, part of that is a $350 bonus, and this information that is on this slide is from the state, directly information. And you can see at the bottom the teacher and instructional support bonus. So the state will be providing a one-time bonus of $350 to teachers and instructional support employed as of October 1st, and it must be paid by October 31st. And this is not subject to retirement, and you can see the additional information that as far as how it will be allotted to us, that the money to pay for that. But that state bonus covers teachers and instructional support, which instructional support are like counselors and our certified employees that work in those social worker, counselor, media person, those type of employees, very specific by the state. So the recommendation from the Finance Committee was to, for option two, to change that to provide a one-time $350 bonus to all full-time employees that are not covered under the state bonus, using those same stipulations that the state provided, and to provide a one-time, and this had been part of that bonus previously, but a one-time $25 bonus for bus drivers that work one shift per day, $50 for bus drivers that work both shifts per day. And again, this would be the same as the state bonus is set up. It would be employees that were employed as of October 1st and be paid by October 31st and not be subject to retirement. So it's really to supplement what the state is doing for those employees that were not covered by the state bonus. So this is the revised option two that is included today in these options that were recommended by the Finance Committee of the board. So looking at that, so what does fund balance appropriated look like with that revised option and the other options? So this is very similar to what you saw at the last meeting. Really the only change being on this slide is the cost of that one-time $350 supplement. That not being subject to retirement and not including all of our employees in that particular, it would include all employees of the state, but the state would pay for part of it, and the local portion would be a lesser number. So you can see that cost. So option one again was to the $257,516 that we're currently budgeted for fund balance appropriated. That would continue. That's in every option. The second thing is the continuation funding, the difference between the amount that the county funded and what our costs are, our projected costs for the retirement rate increase, health insurance, and the step increase that the state has is providing is this part of the state salary bill. So first option is just those two things, and so projected fund balance appropriated is $635,000. Option two are again the $257,000, that continuation funding $378,000, plus that one-time $350 supplement that's not covered by the state bonus is $107,000. So that total fund balance appropriated is $743,000. Option three is the 257, the continuation funding needed $378,000, and then those additional positions that were requested 2 instructional lead teachers, and 1 social worker. So that option 3 is a total fund balance appropriated of $884,000 of fund balance appropriated. Option 4 is really everything that is included on this slide. So it's the $257,000, the $378,000 continuation funding, that $107,000 for the one-time $350 supplement, those positions, 2 instructional lead teachers and 1 social worker, $248,000, for a total fund balance appropriated of $991,000. So that's where we would be with fund balance appropriated for the 2021 school year. So then the next question would be, okay, so what does that look like? What does our fund balance look like after using that amount of fund balance? So again, this slide is similar to what you looked at before, but I will point out the differences. When we talked at the June 29th meeting, we had discussed that because of the COVID-19, the very unusual year that we had in 1920 and closing school buildings early and not having bus transportation, not having substitutes, not having a lot of expenses that would be budgeted for, that we anticipated an increase in fund balance for 1920. So I reflected on this slide a conservative 900,000 of an increase in fund balance. It is still too soon to know exactly what that number will be because there are still adjustments, there are still bills that are coming in that are have to be reflected back on last year. But just to give you an idea of what those numbers look like and to give a conservative number, I've included 900,000 of an increase in fund balance. So on each of these options, again, this is the same options that we looked at on the last slide. The local fund balance, total local fund balance from the 6/30/19 audit is 6.2 million. So adding in the estimated increase from 1920, and then including the projected fund balance appropriated, those are the numbers from the slide before with each all 4 of those options. Those use of fund balance for 2021. Then the second to the last column is the total projected fund balance. This is what we would have going into the next budget year, 21-22. So you can see where the fund balance lands with each of those options. And then a percentage of, this is a number that the auditors had when they presented the audit, as far as a fund balance as a percentage of total governmental expenditures. You can see where we would be with each of those options, and I've included in the notes the fact that where we were at the last audit, and we were at 7.26%, just so you could see and have a comparison of how that relates back. Any questions about that and those options? The next thing I wanted to go into was the executive team recommendation as far as fund balance appropriated use. So this includes, so this is done very similar to the options before, with the board's options. This includes the existing fund balance of 257, and then the number one need, the projected continuation funding that we need, the retirement and the health insurance and the step increase, the funds to pay for those items, 378,000. But then the other item that's included is maintain, and this has been mentioned, but maintain existing positions for 1 year. So the 2 assistant principal positions, 1.22 custodial positions, and 3 clerical positions. So the way that where these numbers come from, you might look at that 1.22 custodial and ask how in the world does that happen, or where that comes from. And that is based on the dollars. So based on our projection of reduced enrollment, we are projecting that our state funding would be reduced for the equivalent of these positions. And as you recall, there is, and it's included in this presentation towards the back, includes all of the slides that you've seen previously, but I think it was slide number, page 21 of this presentation includes the list of all of the positions that would, and all of the funding that we're projecting a reduction of based on enrollment. And so this in no way includes all of those positions that we're losing funding for, but these are certain critical positions that the executive team is asking to maintain for 1 year as we continue to operate the schools that we operate, and especially during this time. So with that, that's a $374,000. So the total projected fund balance appropriated would be $1,009,000. Then, just as we looked at with the board's options, this is looking at, okay, so what would that do to fund balance with that? Again, starting with the 6.2 million of fund balance as of June 30th, 19, and then the estimated increase in fund balance 900,000, using that 1,009,000 of fund balance in 2021, that our projected fund balance for as of 6/30/21 or going into the 21-22 year would be 6.1 million, which is at 7.49% of local governmental expenditure. Any questions on that particularly? So,
Yeah.
based
Do you want, Beth, you want to wait until after you've gone through everything before we ask questions?
that's fine, that's fine.
Okay.
Either way. 'Cause maybe this might answer some.
Yeah, go ahead, sure.
So the next thing is based on questions that we've received, and just looking at some various factors associated with the use of fund balance. I wanted to include some additional information. One thing is looking at that, so that particularly at the 378,000 of continuation funding that we need. The county had funded a portion of what we had requested, but the 378 is the difference. Looking particularly at that, there are certain factors that are outside of the Board of Education's control associated with that, and then there are certain factors that are potentially within the Board of Education's control. And I just thought that might be helpful to kind of point those things out. The factors that are outside of the Board of Education's control is the retirement rate increase, and that has been significant over the years. I have a document that I have on my wall. In 06-07, that retirement rate percent was 7%. And we're projecting at 21.6% for next year, for 2021. That's huge. That is a huge increase in cost associated, and that's really something that is totally outside of our control, what that retirement rate increase is year after year. The other thing is the health insurance rate increase. That's outside of the Board of Education's control, as well as whatever the state does as far as the salary increase is concerned. There are certain factors that are within the Board of Education's control, locally or state dollar allotment paid positions. That is a limited number of positions that are paid locally and in the state dollar allotment. The local supplement calculation, currently the local supplement is a percentage of the base salary. So the calculation of that is within the board's control. And then the local salary scale that we have for non-certified employees, it includes a step that's outside of the state increase if there's a state increase for those employees. I just thought that that would be helpful to, kind of point out on that particular number, what is within control and what is not, what is outside of our control. The next item that I wanted to, just point out, this is something that, that was included when, it was a public document associated with, potential color lease, as far as what our carrying costs are for that property. And this is 100,817 was our annual carrying cost. And so dependent on what happens with that property, that is a cost that we will no longer have. And that is an annual cost. That's a recurring cost this year after year. So that is something to take into account, to think about as far as our use of fund balance. Those would be fund balance dollars that we would no longer have to budget for if that property were sold.
Beth and Dr. Winborn, do we have a time frame where we are in the upset bidding process for Toller?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are in the third window. I can pull up that amount, but I believe we're at 264,000 is the current bid. And I believe the window closes on the, let me find that out real quick. But yes, sir, we're third window.
Okay.
264,000 is the current highest offer. And it will end on July 22nd, I believe.
Okay, good. All right, thank you, Dr. Winborn.
Yes, sir.
So, and I would just, the actual sale price of that property will be those funds will bring that to you as far as use within our capital outlay and our projects. It would be helpful, but I just want to also make sure it's on your radar, these carrying costs, which is very useful on an ongoing basis. A reduction of those costs would be very, very helpful in our fund balance, the amount of fund balance appropriated that is needed to balance the budget. And then I just included, just as a perspective, so that this is from a previous presentation, as far as the local budget impact, what was the fund balance appropriated impact of the school closures that the board had decided on in the past, just so you would see what those numbers were, as far as these are the local costs that we're able to reduce our fund balance appropriated for those school closures. The next section, and I'm not going through all of these slides. If you're looking at them thinking, oh my goodness, but there's a lot of slides that we have previously gone over, so I'm not far from being able to stop, but because I just wanted you to have those other slides as reference that we had gone over previously. But the next thing was a potential plan for okay, if we use this amount of fund balance, how are we ever going to stop using this amount of fund balance based on these different options and the recommendations? So I've included sort of in the same colors as those options previously. Each of the options, and the top line is the fund balance appropriated from each of those options. So again, option 1 was the continuation cost and the $257. Option 2 was the $350 supplement, matching what the state does for all of our other employees. So that, as well as the continuation cost and the $257, so that was $743,000 fund balance appropriated. Option 3 was those additional positions, 2 instructional support and the social worker position, as well as the continuation cost and the $257. So that's the $884. And then option 4 was everything, basically. So it's the continuation cost, the $257, plus the $350 supplement, and plus the those positions, the 2 instructional support and the social worker positions. So that's a combination of all those board options. So that was the 991,000. So I've included on this the potential savings of carrying costs with the possible sale of Toller coming off of that number of fund balance appropriated. And then I've included the next row is elimination of one-time costs. So all of those options that have been looked at, it was discussed that those would be one-time payments. So the $350 would be a one-time thing for 2021. So that is shown as a reduction. The option 3 and 3 is the positions, which were discussed as a one-time, 1-year positions, short-term positions. So that reflects those coming off of there. And then option 4 includes both the positions and the the one-time cost for the $350 supplement. So that takes that 356,000. So the next number, based on what the board, when the board has done this in the past with looking at fund balance appropriated, trying to reduce our reliance on fund balance, the thing that was looked at was potential school consolidation savings. And so I've included that here. 534,870 would be the remaining amount with all of these options, because all of the items that have been discussed as a one-time expenditure. So that would be the same remaining number for all of these options. And then taking that off, that is the number that gets you down to a zero amount of fund balance appropriated. And then I've also included,
Beth,
yes.
can I make sure I understood that correctly? So what you're saying is the fourth line down, the 534.87 would be what we would need to cut or realize savings wise, consolidation wise, if we were to get to zero. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. That's correct.
or other cuts. I mean, that's really where the, board's decision comes in to play. But what would need to be reduced down to get to the zero fund balance appropriated. Yes, sir.
All right, I got you. Okay, thank you.
So then, likewise, with the executive team recommendation, we would be at $1,009,000 of fund balance appropriated, taking off the toller, the savings of the carrying cost, the recurring savings of the carrying cost, the elimination of those one-time costs, those positions, because that was requested. The executive team recommendation included those positions for 1 year. Then again, you come to that 534,870. That same number. And, this has been reflected as 3 to 4 year plan. It's very difficult to know what will happen as far as next year is concerned. I mean, it's hard to know what's going to happen in 2021, much less in years out from there. But knowing like what the state funding is going to do, what our enrollment is going to do, what the county funding might, differences in the county funding. So there's just a lot of factors out there that could, and variables that could affect, future years. But where we are right now, that is the amount of money based on if these decisions are made. That is the amount of fund balance appropriated that we would need to reduce in future years. So the rest of the slides are really a repeat, and I'll be glad to go to any of those that you wanted to see again. But that really concludes what the main points that I wanted to make for this afternoon, and hope that I was able to answer questions that had been raised at the last meeting and brought back the information that you had requested.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Day. Dr. McLean, would you like to add anything before we start kind of discussing?
No, sir. I think the big thing is we don't know what the state is going to come back and request of districts. What we know is that everyone is expecting something more to happen in the upcoming year. We don't know what that will be or how that will look. So what Ms. Day has presented to you is quite conservative at this point, playing with what we know. So I want to say that to our board, we've presented what we know. What we also know is more is coming. We just don't know what that will be or how it will look. That is about the best I think I can share, Mr. Chair, at this point.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let me kind of recap. Ms. Day, can you go back to the slide that presents the 4 options? That way we can kind of have it in front of us as we discuss. Okay, so board, what we originally asked Ms. Day and the Finance Committee to do was to come back and show what this would look like. So basically, option 1 is kind of not a discussion. We have to have that to operate. So option 1's kind of done. So what we need to decide today as a board is, do we do option 2, 3, 4, and the executive team's recommendation? And so kind of what I want to do, because this is one of those items that could go on for hours just because everybody has thoughts and opinions. What I'd like to do is kind of go around the table and just kind of get everybody's initial thoughts of if you were to support a option or several options, what would that look like, and just maybe kind of your reasoning behind it. And Ms. Allred, you're on the finance team with me, so we've had a little bit more time to look at this than everybody else. So I'd like to start with you, just kind of where you land right now and what your thoughts are.
I really like the executive team's recommendation to keep some of the positions that they had selected. I feel like that we need to take care of the people that we already have. And I feel like those positions are needed, especially as we go into the new year. I also like the fact that the state has already given part of those supplements to our staff members. So that kind of helped us out there, but I feel like the ones that were not included in that supplement still need to be included. So I would support the executive team's decision plus the supplement for those who were not included for the state decision.
Okay. Mr. Rivers.
I'm just very, very concerned. I am, you've heard me say this for over a year now. I think our budget situation, in my opinion, and I may be the only one, is kind of beyond the crisis mode. Right now, Dr. Wimborne just told me that we have $10 million in unfunded infrastructure needs, of which $7 million are critical. So right now, if we took care of our critical infrastructure needs and got no more help from the county, that would more than zero our projected fund balance. We know that G.C. Hawley is going to take at least $20 million to renovate. The county doesn't have the money. We're looking at a bond that may take another 2 years before we get it on the ballot. In the meantime, we've got to sustain G.C. Hawley, and there may be ideas to put Band-Aids to keep it open indefinitely, and maybe we chip away at the $20 million over 20 years and just gradually rebuild it. These are just decisions we as a board have to make, and we can't keep deferring them. I am very concerned. We promised the Toller folks that we were going to not go into fund balance anymore, and that's why we closed the school. Going into fund balance by $1 million to me is just is imprudent right now. I believe that the economic crisis that we're in the county and the state is just beginning. We know when you have large amounts of unemployment in businesses, it's a ripple effect. We are not seeing the full extent of that damage now that we will see next year and the year after. I don't see the county raising taxes anytime soon, nor the state with so many people hurt so badly. our revenues are going to be down, county and statewide. So I don't think next year's budget. I think it's going to be uglier than this year's budget. So, you know, we're in a real mess. I agree. There's not much we can do with the 257 we've already obligated through our budget. The continuation is required. You know my feelings. I really want more social workers and more instructional coaches. Regarding the bonus, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I know a lot of our employees this past spring were paid, excuse me, paid to stay home. I know a lot of my friends, in fact, more of my friends have lost their jobs or taken substantial pay cuts, myself included, than not. So paying bonuses now at a time of economic crisis, to me, is wonderful as a signal it is. I just don't see how we can, in good fiscal sense, do that. I mean, I agree. It's kind of wrong the state did what they did, but I just don't think we have the money to match it. So as much as I love our employees, I just think we all are going to have to sacrifice now. I further think it's critical that at the retreat that we really, the board, get down and discuss our 5-year plan. I mean, we need to prioritize. We need to list those priorities in order, and when we run out of money, we cut the rest. And we know we have excess capacity. We know we've got to consolidate and close some things, and we've just got to do it. And we're going to have to make some unpopular decisions. There's no doubt about it. But this is very frightening to me. You know, I just, you know, the only, you know, the option for the executive team's recommendation, I would like to know if it sounds like, unless I misunderstood you, Dr. McLean, that one of the AP positions can be filled by attrition. And is there any chance that the clerical and custodial positions can be taken care of by attrition? You know, is there some way that we don't have to go so deeply into fund balance, and that we can fund social worker and instructional coaches?
We'd like to do by attrition. Right now, we have positions available that need to be filled. You know, we have places for those people right now. So we are trying to get them placed. What we're trying not to do, and we don't have the need to do a RIF. So we don't have a need to cut anyone, so I don't want to send that out as a scare, but we typically try to do, and have been able to do attrition. Right now I have places for those people.
Okay,
So,
and that's good to know. And thank you for that. So I guess that's basically, Mr. Chair, that's kind of where I am. I'm for a lot of reasons, I'm not in favor of increasing our reliance on fund balance. I think we're just going to have to, you know, we're going to have to bite the bullet, and we're going to have to just, you know, cut some fixed costs, and the sooner the better. And that's just something we're going to have to roll up our sleeves and just do. And it's not going to be popular, it's not going to be fun, but we don't have a choice, and we cannot continue on this path with the future so uncertain with our budget in this situation. So I hope I'm kind of clear on that.
So am I understanding that you would not support any of these options? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, it sounds like from Dr. McLean's, if I just heard her correctly, the executive committee option, which I guess is 4, is taken care of with those employees can be placed, and there's no RIF required. I think.
But am I correct, Dr. McLean, am I still correct that you still need to spend that money though, correct?
The money will need to be spent to save those positions. That's correct, to save them.
You know, you cannot, through attrition, not have to RIF anyone.
Dr. Winborn, and I have you and Dr. Perry, Mr. Perry on the line. I want to be very clear that I'm giving accurate information on that.
Yes, ma'am. So we are giving accurate information. We currently have 2 assistant principal vacancies. So if we cut 2 assistant principal positions, we will lose current assistant principal employees into those five instead of hiring from the outside. But those positions will be eliminated. The 2 positions will be eliminated.
Okay, then, and I think we may just have to do it. This is part of the painful cuts we're gonna have to make. The question I'm having to wrestle with while the rest of people make their comments is whether, I am willing to go into fund balance to hire the, instructional coaches and social worker. Dr. McLean, did I understand you correctly? And I just wanna confirm, through a grant that I know you all are doing a great job on really pushing for grants. Through a grant, we've been able to hire a social worker for next year, and that will give us 2.5 social workers for next school year, this coming school year. Is that correct?
Through the grant, we are able to obtain 1 additional social worker and 1 instructional coach. So yes, sir, that will give us a total of 2.5 social workers, and we will now have an additional instructional coach. It's not the 2 we were asking for, but it does give us 1 of the 2. That's
So we will have 3 instructional coaches district-wide and 2.5 social workers.
correct. Am I correct on those figures, Dr. Winborn? I want to be sure I'm giving
Yes.
accurate information.
Yes, ma'am. And I'd like to, if I could, Mr. Rivers, just finish with regards to the other positions. I do not believe, we may only have currently 1 custodial vacancy. And I do not
I beg your
believe,
pardon?
I believe we only have 1 custodial vacancy at the moment. And I would have to check with Mr. Perry to see if that's filled or not. As far as clerical, the only clerical vacancy that I know of in the district right now is mine, my administrative assistant, Lynn Henderson's previous role. I do not believe there are any other clerical vacancies across the district. So we would have to plan for those to be eliminated, those positions eliminated through attrition. Or we would need to adopt a risk policy, which I would not
Or you could,
be in favor of.
right, you could take the clerical position that's excess now and use it to fill, Lynn's former position with you, correct?
One of them, yes, sir. But I believe, I can't see the slide, but I believe it was, you can scroll down.
I think it's 2.
Two.
It was 3.
3.
So it looks like, the potential for a RIF would potentially be no more than 2 clerical positions. Is that correct?
As it currently stands, yes, sir. As of today, but again, I certainly wouldn't want to send a message out to everyone that that's, what we're doing right now.
All right, so does that clear up your questions, Mr. Rivers?
It does, and I think, again, to the point where we may have to eliminate some positions and transfer those folks to other positions where we have funding. It's the will of the board. I mean, I just think it's really dangerous for us to live outside our means, and somehow we are going to have to cut our expenses, and we're going to have to really dig into the debit side of our ledger, and we're going to have to do those things that none of us want to do, but I don't see any way around it, especially with what I perceive to be the next several years of really lean times financially.
Okay. All right,
Thank
Dr. McKnight?
Well, I'm kind of leaning towards what Lynn had brought up with going with the executive team recommendation. I think we do need to take care of the folks that we currently have right now. And similar to what Mr. Rivers said, I think in August when we sit down and really dig into this, we're going to have to make some tough decisions. But right now, I'm going with the executive team recommendation.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir. Mr. Peace?
Yes, sir. I'm leaning towards going with the executive team recommendations. I would like to, I'm not sure if I know the cost of the bonuses would be, but it would be in addition to the
$1,900,000, I guess. Yes, sir, it's 107,510 is the cost of that. I'm sorry, I forgot that you didn't have that in front of you. Right, 107? 107,510. Okay, all right. That's what that would be my, recommendation. Okay, Mr. Uden?
Well, I agree with Mr. Rivers, but the other thing is, I know that we have cut so thin now that we don't have anywhere else to cut. So it kind of puts me in a position that it's about half and half, but I would recommend the executive team's decision.
Okay, Dr. Houlihan?
Yeah, hold on just a minute, I lost my. Let's go back if we could. What was, because there are so many slides, what was the Finance Committee's recommendation?
So the Finance Committee had made the adjustment for the bonuses, and that would cost 107,510. And we were leaning in support of the Executive Committee's recommendation. So essentially option 2 plus the executive team recommendation.
Okay, a couple of other questions. We've lost over the course of, the years, about how many students who've gone to charter? Yeah.
Yes,
Roughly.
hold on. No.
Would you say just in general?
I'm hard on rough, I'm not good with that. But, hold on, let me look at the budget document. So, in 2012, we had 188 students in charter. In 2019, we had 1,410. So about 1,200 students over that time period.
So we've lost, from that point on, bottom line is from 2000, whenever we started to today, we've lost about 1,200 students, correct?
Correct.
During that time frame, how many positions have we cut in the school system?
I would have to gather that information, Dr.
I'm talking about local.
Yeah.
And I apologize if I'm off, but the thing that gets bigger is that we continue to lose students, but we're not, in my mind, things like a 2 AP and a clerical and so on and so forth. You hate to lose them, but the reality is if we've got less students, the bottom line to me is we don't have much money to begin with in local funds. And if we're not cutting folks, if we're not addressing the cuts by cutting our own positions, then we'll never get out of this thing. I didn't really see a plan that we talked about, a 4-year plan about, what would happen over time. We probably don't know, but the bottom line is, for me, that we've got to, we've got to, I feel, stay within our means, whatever that might mean. I am in favor, given the fact that we have a $900,000 fund balance appropriated. I'm in the, I will support this overall with a concern about the lead teachers and the social workers. Because what happens is once somebody is in the system, they automatically stay here, and that's a bit of a concern. The money that we've got, $1 million, with what's happened, in my understanding, is that part of that's because last year the funds weren't used as much as they could have been because of the coronavirus. But I'll be supportive of that for 1 year. And I am very concerned that if we add people or funding for more than 1 year, then we're right back to where I think we're in trouble. My big concern is that the commissioners did not fund continuing needs for, fringe benefit to the count of 378, 171. The question is, will we ever see that money again? Or will we always be in a position of having to carry over 400, 410, 450,000, whatever that figure is? Because Beth, you know better than anybody, once it's off the books for them, it's gonna be mighty hard to get it back on. And is that a concern for anybody? I mean, what is the thinking about that?
Dr. Houlihan, I can chime in just a little. I had the opportunity to talk with County Manager Phelps last week, and we are going to schedule, after the governor makes his announcement, we had a very promising conversation to get our liaisons back together. So I'm hopeful that we're able to do that within the next 2 weeks. And so that is one of the topics I'm hoping our liaisons will be able to sort of put back on the table. So we'll be sure, and our liaisons are on the call right now, and so we'll be sure to put that back on the table.
Well, we obviously you don't have the answer, but I would be very skeptical of that because, well, anyway. So I would be willing to support it for 1 year because of the fund balance. And here's another reason, and we talked about this a little bit. Through the forum or some group, a listing of the fund balances of every school system in the state was provided. And I can tell you that our fund balance compared to the rest of the state is extremely healthy. And I don't use the word extremely mildly. So, I mean, until I saw that, it made a difference. So I would support that for the year because I had no idea that's what the kind of fund balance we had. And frankly, if we don't spend some of it, it'll be gone to the commissioners in one way or the other. So, but at the other hand, the day is going to come, as Rob says, and it probably will come in the next year or two, when we're really going to have to make some cuts because we cannot continue to carry people who would have been cut by the state, who have been cut by the state, but we keep them ourselves through local funds. So that's where I am. I still am concerned and would like to have some kind of a plan in place that we could follow. We started doing that a while back, and I don't know what's happened to it, but we need to be, I think, very clear, and the board needs to know very clearly what the long-term plan is. For example, we're going to get into the Hawley situation. What's the long-term plan for Hawley? How are we going to get there, and how are we going to involve the commission, all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying. So, until we had that money, I was totally opposed, but I'm willing to support it.
Tom, I'll say one other thing about the students we've lost. You mentioned just charter schools. If you look at our ADM back in 2009, it was pushing 9,000. Our ADM now is 7,000. So we've lost 2,000 students, not 1,400, but lots of homeschool, private schools, other places. So it's been a larger than 1,400 loss.
Good point.
Mr. Richardson, may I make one clarification point? I just want to make sure. The included on it's slide number 21. We've looked at it in previous meetings several times, but you know the budget cuts that were worked in the 2021 budget,
if I look at all of the positions, the position reductions, it's 25.5 positions that are not ones that were asked, that are being recommended to continue. So this budget does include a reduction of 25.5 positions, besides for those that we were just talking about, because the two assistant principals, the custodial positions, and the clerical positions are the ones that were requested fund balance appropriated, but the remaining positions, HR is working on the reduction of those positions. So I just wanted to make that clarification.
So Beth, if we cut those positions, are those cuts reflected in the budget?
Yes, they are reflected in the budget. I mean, so that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So that, we are projecting a reduction in state and local funds of 2.2 million, which we've reduced. I mean, the only 300,000 of that is what we were asking for fund balance appropriated for, of the 2.2 million. Those have all been reflected within the budget as reductions.
Well, I must be slow, but if I see here, if it's total reduction of locals 455, 274, tell me how that's, where is that reflected in the local budget in terms of the bottom line?
So it's money, because the amount that we've had to reduce our local budget for is what we're projecting that will be funds that'll be passed through to the charter schools. So that's an increase in that line. It's not a decrease in our total budget, but it's money that, instead of money that we have to spend, it's money that is part of that pass through to the charter school. So I can see how that,
So when we got the original budget document, it was showing that 16% cut across the board in all of the program budgets. That's kind of where these numbers are tying back to, that we made those cuts initially in the original budget document. It's not where we're at now.
Right. I mean, that's part of the budget proposal. I mean, that, now we're just asking, that recommendation is the fact that, out of this 2.2, the request is, can we maintain those few positions and pay for that out of fund balance?
Correct. So Dr. Houlihan, it was the original budget that we approved early on that you're seeing that 455 cut out of. Now we're back to the point of, okay, we have these four options we want to add back into the budget to do whatever each one of those pieces do.
All of this other has been cut, or will be cut.
Okay. Okay. I want to take the opportunity, I don't do this a whole lot, but I wanted to weigh in as a board member. So as part of the Finance Committee, I have really struggled with what options we need to do and those kind of things as well. I'm in favor of the revised option too, because oftentimes, and I believe board members got an email a week or two ago, oftentimes our other staff that are not certified teachers are left out of things like the $350 bonus. And so in the original proposal, we proposed this 107,510, what was a larger number. So I felt comfortable when it came down because the state was helping us with that. The option 3, while I think the instructional leads and the social worker would do wonders for us, I would dare say they would not do wonders for us for 2 or 3 years, because I don't think we can expect massive changes from a new employee or a new position the very first year they're here. And I also have a very hard time of saying we're cutting positions but then adding these in there. And then I definitely support the executive team's recommendation for the sole purpose of, they have talked about it being a 1-year fix, and that gives us as a board the time we need to grapple with what are we doing with closures. We were well on our way at the beginning of this year to really dig deep into those conversations when we got derailed because of COVID. Now it sounds like we're still going to be dealing with COVID. this school year. However, we need to make sure we're kind of compartmentalizing that we still have this piece to do as well. So we've been given a 1-year reprieve of such because we didn't spend that money earlier this year, would be my thought. So as a board member, I would say the executive team recommendation and option 2 for those reasons. So we're at the point now, kind of, we've gone around the table. Everybody's kind of had an opportunity to lay on the table what they feel like. What I would like to do is to hear, is there a motion? You've heard what the executive team is recommending, what they would like to keep as those positions for 1 year. You've heard the recommendation from the finance committee. That is option 2 as revised, as well as the executive committee recommendation. So at this point, we'd like to see if someone's willing to make a motion to what we would approve, or if we don't, then the budget stands the way it is and we move on.
Could I ask a quick question, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
And this is to you or to Dr. McLean, or maybe to Dr. Winburn. This spring, when the schools were shut down in mid-March, there was a lot going back and forth with the use of leave and paid leave and the like. Can Dr. McLean or whoever, can you let the board know how many employees elected to use the leave and not come to work and were paid a full salary to be at home for those 3 months?
Dr. Winborn, would you like to speak to that and kind of make sure you clarify what those options were available to them?
Yes, sir. That's a good question, Mr. Rivers. So we had something that happened that was rather unique. The federal government was the first to offer emergency leave, and it was called Families First Coronavirus Relief Act. And we did not have many employees take advantage of that, but it did allow for up to 80 hours of paid leave for those who contracted the virus or were forced to stay home and quarantine themselves. It also paid for up to 12 weeks of FMLA leave at 2/3 pay for those that had to care for family members or children who didn't have school. But that was sort of, that federal leave was sort of trumped by emergency sick leave that was offered by the state board of education. And that came in right in the mid-April, and it provided emergency sick leave for any employee who was either contracted the virus or was forced to quarantine, or who was in an at-risk category, and that was verified by a doctor's note. And so we did have approximately, and Mr. Perry, correct me if this number's old, but I believe it was just over 200 or so staff members who took advantage of that leave because they qualified for it. And they received that leave up until the end of the academic year, the 10-month calendar.
We had 180 employees who were approved for the state emergency sick leave.
Thank you. So, and the majority of those, Mr. Rivers, were our classified staff who did not feel, because of their pre-existing medical conditions or what have you, they did not feel comfortable reporting to work. And they were unable, many of them were unable to telework because of their job duties. So it was actually very few certified staff members who took that leave. And generally they took it when they were directly impacted by COVID, them or their family member.
Thank you very much. So basically, none of that money came out of our local funds.
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rivers. All right, so board members, do I have a board member that is willing to make a motion for what's the pleasure of the board? Okay. Hearing no motion, then the way it appears to me is then we will leave the budget as is. Am I correct in that?
Say that again.
Okay, so either we need a motion on, we need a board member to make a motion of which of these options they want to do. Or if no action is taken, then we are back to the original budget.
Mr. Chair, I move we accept the executive team's recommendation.
Okay, all right, so we have all right, was that Mr. Peace? All right, so we have a motion by Dr. McKnight and a second by Mr. Peace that we accept the recommendation of the executive team as our option moving forward. And Dr. McKnight, am I correct? I need to make sure that includes the option one that we really don't have an option on, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion
Mr. Chair,
that we.
Could you clarify, does the executive team include just the positions, the AP positions?
It is the 2 assistant principal positions, 1.22 custodial, 3 clerical, at the cost of $374,196.
Okay, so that's that in addition to the continuation and the 257. So that's the total executive committee recommendation.
Yeah, $1,009,883. Is that correct, Dr. McKnight, Mr. Peace?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion by Dr. McKnight, a second by Mr. Peace, that we accept the executive team recommendation along with the continuation funding. What discussion do we have?
So that would not include the bonus for the staff members?
On this particular motion, no, ma'am.
Needs to be made in a separate motion, sir.
Say that again.
Would that 107,510 be made in a separate motion?
You could either do that, or you could have Dr. McKnight amend his motion to include that. Dr. McKnight, are you willing to do that, or do you want to leave your motion as is?
No, I'm willing to do that.
Okay, so let me rephrase this again. So the motion is to accept the executive team's recommendation of maintaining existing positions for 2 APs, 1.22 custodial positions, 3 clerical for 1 year at the cost of $374,196, continuation funding at the cost of $378,171, existing fund balance appropriated at the $257,516, which brings us to a total of $1,009,833, but also the addition of option 2, which is the one-time bonuses for those not covered by the state bonus at a cost of $107,510. We have a motion by Dr. McKnight and a second by Mr. Peace. Is there further discussion? All right.
I have one comment.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I guess I'm still confused. My understanding is that this executive recommendation is to fund positions as opposed to preventing a RIF of a certain number of people. In other words, Dr. Winburn said we have 2 AP vacancies, so the 2 AP positions would not be RIFed. We have a custodial vacancy, so that position would not be RIFed, and we have 1 clerical. So we're looking at, as far as a RIF, we're looking at potentially 2 clerical if attrition does not create vacancies, which typically we see from our monthly classified briefings that it would. So I just want to be clear, we are voting to spend money and go into fund balance to preserve positions, but not to keep from having to lay people off. Is that correct?
Ms. Stevenson, might you help us phrase that differently, please?
Sure. I think that the difficulty we're having is the difference between positions and people. But a reduction in force a reduction in force is generally the elimination of positions, and then it leads to the termination of people unless you can find another job for them. So I think, but you're right, Mr. Rivers, in that the proposal, as I understand it, is to continue funding these positions, and as opposed to eliminating them. So if this were not approved and the positions had to be eliminated, then the administration, I'm hearing, is optimistic that they could find other jobs for those folks, but the positions would be eliminated. So that's a long way of saying I think the proposal, what you are correct that they are not necessarily proposing to lay off people because they hope that they could find other jobs for them, but it's still technically a reduction in force if you're eliminating positions.
But the bottom line is that we're going to spend $374,196.
Correct, and per Dr. Houlihan's comment earlier, this would just be for 1 year, so we're going to be in the same boat next year. If we do not eliminate these positions, we're going to be in the same position next year, having to perhaps go into fund balance to keep these positions. So,
and I believe part of the thought process is if we do consolidate a building, some of these positions would roll away anyway, like we have seen in the past.
That's right.
So that is the end goal of, as we have discussions of consolidation again, that these roll away anyway.
So, Mr. Richardson, are you saying that these positions, they'll roll over next year and be eliminated? Are you saying that they're not needed this year?
No, I believe they are needed this year because of the way our buildings are set up, the way the students are separated, and what are the needs of the school. What I'm saying is we are pledging to do this for 1 year. We consolidate, or yes, we're having the same discussion next year of, do we budget these or do we not budget these?
And I would say, I think it's highly unlikely that we would reach a decision by November or December in order to help Dr. McLean with your planning about any kind of consolidation, since we really haven't done anything at this point. So I think we're going to be in a position next year of having to be in the same boat of refunding these positions if we keep them.
And that motion does include giving the supplements to those, the bonuses to those people who have not gotten something from the state. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The current motion on the floor. Yes, sir. All right. Any further discussion? All right. If you're ready to vote, let me read this to you one more time. What Dr. McKnight's motion and Mr. Peace's second is that we accept option 1, which is the continuation funding. Option 2, which is the bonuses. I'm sorry. Everybody good now? Okay. Option 1, which is the continuation funding. Option 2, which is the one-time bonus for those not covered under the state. And then the executive team recommendation of 1 year funding of 2 APs, 1.22 custodial, and 3 clerical positions. All right, if you're ready to vote. Ms. Allwood?
Yes.
Mr. Rivers?
No.
Dr. McKnight?
Yes.
Mr. Peace? Yes. Mr. Udy?
Yes.
Dr. Houlihan?
Yes.
All right, and my vote, so that is 6-1 with Mr. Rivers voting no. That motion passes, and Ms. Day, that will be the updates to the new budget.
Thank you so much.
All right. Board members, now we have one last piece, and hopefully this will not be a long one. We move to 6.02, computer purchases for 2021. You've seen information on this in previous meetings, and so I will defer to Ms. Day and Ms. Lofton.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. I am going to quickly turn it over to Ms. Lofton, but I just wanted to, we are working feverishly to get our last purchase of computers done, but done through consultation with the board attorney and making sure that we are legally spending the funds that we've received and jumping through all of the hoops that are necessary to spend that. And so tonight, this afternoon, we thought it would be helpful just to give you an overall perspective on where we are with all of our computer purchases to ensure that we have one-to-one devices for remote learning for next year. So I am going to turn it over to Ms. Watson.
All right, thank you for driving. You can go ahead and go to the first slide there. So as you all know, prior to COVID, we were one-to-one with devices 6 through 12, and we were able to move it down into elementary, but as Ms. Day said, we're just trying to give you an overview of where we are and let you know what our next steps are. So in high schools, all the devices for our 9th graders have been ordered. Those should arrive in August. There's been a big delay, but we got it in as quick as we can, and so we hope to have those in August. We did get Granville Early College's order in early, so those have arrived and are ready to be distributed to the students. As you know, they start in a couple weeks. The 10th through 12th graders, as usual, will use the existing device that they already have. In middle school, it's a very similar circumstance. So all the devices for the 6th graders have been ordered, and they should arrive in August. We did get Northern Granville's in early, which is our largest middle school. Those have already arrived and are at the school. And in middle school, the 7th and 8th graders use their existing device. So that's kind of, as it has always been, we're just sweating on the timing of when those devices will come in. Okay, moving on to the next one. Elementary, as you know, was not one-to-one prior to COVID. So we were able to get 4th and 5th grade devices deployed at the very end of last school year. So my technicians worked last week to inventory all of the Chromebooks that are in 4th and 5th grade classrooms and look and see which ones are still usable, which ones need to be repaired, which ones need to be replaced because they're outdated and no longer work. We do have some available Chromebooks from seniors who just graduated, and as usual, we then move those down into the elementary schools onto carts. So we do plan on doing that as we're able. For 3rd grade, we did not have one-to-one prior to COVID, but we were able to use funds to purchase Chromebooks for these students, 3rd grade, and the carts to put them on. Those have all arrived in district and they're in the process of being delivered to schools. Half of them are there and half are still being distributed. Now, K2, which is what is causing the most stress. So there has never been an existing one-to-one program in K2. We are pushing toward touchscreen Chromebook devices. You probably remember Ms. Day and I have come before you before, and we did get the approval for the first 339 devices to be purchased, and that covered 2 of our elementary schools. We still need a remaining 1,100 devices, and these are going to be purchased with CARE Act funds. Catch is all the hoops that we have to jump through in order to purchase those devices using those funds. So we were able to work with the board attorney, and an RFP was, a request for proposals was published on July 7th. The bid opening is at county office tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I already know we have a couple bids so far that have come in. So you'll see a timeline here below. This is our last slide. Here's a timeline of where we are and what will need to happen next. So you can see this is for the 1,100 devices, and then we also need a cart for each K2 classroom for these devices to go on once they're back at the school. So that would be a total of 74 carts, 1 for each projected K2 classroom. So here's our timeline. You can see on the far left, the RFP was approved by the board attorney on July 7th, and we were able to post it the same day. The bid opening is tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Then after we do the bid opening, we're going to identify the winner using an RFP process, evaluation process. We have rubrics, we have a committee, those kinds of things. And then we are going to need board approval from you all in terms of making that purchase, because as you can see, we anticipate the purchase being over $400,000. We are going to be using the CARE Act funding for that purchase, but we need board approval due to the amount. Once we have board approval, we can notify the winner, the order will be placed, and then at some point, hopefully sooner than later, the order will arrive in the district and we can deploy it to our K-2 students. Of course, we definitely have concern about it being here in the next month with those steps that still need to happen, but we're working as quickly as we can while still following all the rules as close as we can. So, Ms. Day, is there anything you want to add before we open it up for questions?
No, you did a beautiful job.
Okay. Does anyone, again, this was just to fill you in on where we are, what our next steps are, and what we'll need from you once we have the winner determined from the proposal process. But are there any questions from you all in terms of our devices for our students K-12?
So what do you need from us?
So we are going to need board approval, and the problem is the sooner we get the board approval, the sooner we can get the devices ordered. We should know the winner of the bid tomorrow afternoon. Dr. McLean or Ms. Day, I think you two are anticipating potentially having to have another board meeting this month. Is that correct?
As soon as the governor.
I make the motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay.
That would be wonderful.
Very Dubison, can we actually do that?
So I think what you can do is, if I may restate your motion and you can tell me if this accurately captures it, is perhaps make a motion to authorize the superintendent to approve a contract for purchase of mobile devices up to 500,000, contingent upon attorney approval of the documents as being in order, and presenting it to the board at your next meeting.
Sounds good to me. Will you make that a motion, Ms. Dubison?
If we could record that as Dr. Houlihan's motion. And to be clear, Ms. Loftus, this is what you're using your federal grant that you've received as part of the CARES Act, right?
That's correct.
So we have a motion by Dr. Houlihan, a second by Mr. Peace. Am I correct that this is a one-time authorization?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the motion is to authorize the superintendent to approve a contract of the purchase of mobile devices up to $500,000 contingent on the attorney's approval utilizing CARES Act funding. That's the motion by Dr. Houlihan, a second by Mr. Peace. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we will take a roll call vote. Ms. Alry?
Yes.
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Dr. McKnight?
Yes.
Mr. Peace?
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Houlihan?
Yes.
All right, so that passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Lofton, for putting that together, and Ms. Day for your work on that. And all right, so board, if you will see, we have some upcoming events there. I like how you tried to skirt around a third meeting for July, but do notice that we do have two meetings there for August. Our regular board meeting will be 6 o'clock. Again, if that is an in-person meeting, we will do the superintendent's evaluation. August 24th is our master board training from 3 to 6 p.m. at the Masonic Home Chapel basement. And then also remember, we are trying to work in the retreat where we'll have the financial discussion. We're going to work with Dr. McLean to find out some scheduling for that and get that to you as soon as possible. Dr. McLean, do you have anything else?
No, sir. As soon as we hear the governor's announcement, Mr. Chair, I'll reach out to you and our board members so that we may see if we're in concert or if we need to do something different. Remember, we cannot be We cannot be least restrictive, we can be more restrictive.
Okay. Board members, do you have anything further? All right. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Dr. Houlihan, a second by Mr. Udy to adjourn. Ms. Allred, your vote?
Yes.
Mr. Rivers?
Yes?
Dr. McKnight?
Yes.
Mr. Peace?
Yes.
Mr. Udy?
Amen, yes.
Dr. Houlihan?
No, I think we should stay another couple of hours.
Well, you go ahead and do that. Well, we got enough votes not to worry about what you want to do. All right, so
The last vote.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
all right, thank you everyone for your time today, and thank you to the staff that presented. I hope, Ms. Dubison, we did not run your intern off after a meeting like this, the length of it. So, all right, and we will be in touch by the end of the week.
See y'all later.
All right, have a great day.
Thank you.
Goodbye.